Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Hank Hansen, and I'm really happy to have with us a special guest, Luke Walsh. Good morning, Luke.
Morning, Hank. Thank you.
We're talking about, as you know, we're talking about SEO today. And we got a lot of great questions from everybody that came in, and we are anxious to get in and answer your questions. Luke has some preliminary information to share with you about SEO. And we may even have another webinar up our sleeve since we got so many questions and a lot of great topics came up. So we'll certainly let you know when that second SEO related webinar happens. Before we get started, I want to point out the GoToWebinar features. There's a panel that you can open and hide, and you can join the audio with the telephone or mic and speakers, and you're muted by default. And if you have questions that come up along the way, feel free to enter them in the questions panel. We expect to fill the entire webinar today with the questions we already received when everybody registered. So, and we actually don't think we're going to be able to get through all of those questions. So any questions that we don't get to touch on in today's webinar, Luke will be following up with you individually. We have your name and email, so he will be chipping away at that after the webinar. So just sit tight. If we didn't get to your question, there will be a follow-up. You'll receive a follow-up in your inbox eventually. And we appreciate all the questions you've sent in. And the webinar is also being recorded. So we'll have a recording available tomorrow, and everybody who registered will receive an email tomorrow with a link to an article that summarizes the webinar, and the recording will be available in there. Okay, so Luke has spent the last 20 years with lots of different companies, SaaS companies, small businesses in Oregon, and he's now based in Austin. And he was actually a real estate agent recently, and he's really familiar with the challenges of digital marketing and SEO that agents face. And so he's now consulting, helping real estate professionals and other businesses develop and execute SEO and digital marketing strategies. And you can see his website is here. He's wrapping up construction, I believe, on that site. I think you wanted to add some things to mention here, Luke.
Yeah. I'm just working on some getting the branding. I'm working with a branding expert here in Austin, and to kind of get the branding dialed in. And I'm busy enough at the moment that I'm not too worried about the website piece of it as I kind of spin this up. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I'm just excited to be here and to be able to provide some value for you guys. So I hope everybody gets some value out of this today.
Absolutely, yeah, we really appreciate it. Okay, so we'll get started with SEO discussion, and we'll follow that up with questions.
Yeah, so basically, I wanted to just talk about SEO at a high level and just 100,000 foot view, just to kind of set the stage, because in my view, I think what happens with SEO is the term gets so it gets so sort of confused over time, and then there's a lot of things that where people get the wrong idea, or where things just get confused. So I wanted to answer some of those questions. So here I'm going to start with just what is SEO. Really, SEO, in my view, is that steady focus on great keyword strategy, semantics, knowledge of the latest best practices, and that's easy to get. You can just go to Search Engine Watch and places like that, or you rely on an expert. And then building great content consistently and doing it around that keyword strategy, and leveraging your iHome Finder to account to kind of build out those pages and create good content. So what is it not? I really don't think it's being number one on Google. That pitch, that's not how I work. It's not what, I think that that kind of thing really does give SEO a bad name. I also think that, sometimes SEOs will charge $1,000 plus for a report. And then I hear this all the time from people that are like, oh, I got this report, I don't know what to do with it, and it's 40 pages. And then they're telling me, well, just do X. Well, okay, but there's a million things I'm supposed to do. Really, I think SEO should be about having a clear strategy and then just executing on it, and then just being consistent, and then having someone help you get there. So, and then the other thing is, I don't think that it shouldn't be a DIY plan where you're just saying, oh, I'm going to do my own SEO and then have it never get off the ground. And it's totally fine to do it yourself, but be honest with yourself if it's not working, and then find somebody. Doesn't have to be me, but like find somebody that can get it off the ground or help you get that overall strategy down. And hopefully the webinar today will give you the tools to kind of go into a meeting like that with good information. And then what's the ideal SEO strategy for beginners? I'd say, basically it's one that you're going to follow. Where a couple hours a week, you go in, you check your 5 keywords, your competitive research, where you're seeing where the competitors sit with those keywords, through a tool like Ahrefs. There's some tools that if you reach out to me, I can send you a link to some of those tools. And then have the content creation plan, proper reporting so you can see how you're doing, and then a calendar. And just keep it as simple as that. Just even start with just 5 keywords or key phrases, I should say. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then why should SEO matter to a realtor? So Zillow and the other portals, you're all aware of this. As a realtor, I was very aware of this, especially as a new realtor. Zillow has some strengths, but one of the things that they do is they're known for having this $500, they'll get you signed on as a new realtor. You sign up $500 a month for 6 months. You're not getting the best leads. You're paying $500 a month, and what are you getting? And I think that, by focusing long-term on your SEO and on your own site and your own portable site with with IDX, with iHome Finder, you can make that real estate knowledge that you have that's local, you can make it yours, and then you can leverage it in a way that Zillow just can't do. Like, they're just not competitive at that. They're trying to generalize a lot of this stuff. Like, the neighborhood data is all just generic. Does this mean that SEO can get me direct internet leads? Yes, definitely. I've had leads come in through just phone calls where the neighborhood page shows up. It's a townhouse community, and then they see the phone number and they're like, oh, well, this person really understands this community, so I'm going to call them. And so that kind of thing happens. A lot of times it has more to do with your overall marketing strategy. So you can't have just, you don't want to have really good SEO and then not have a post-lead marketing strategy where you're sending them, texts every once in a while, or value. Send them value, give them value, provide value. So it is about more than SEO. But it can, yeah, you can get direct internet leads. It just takes a little time. And then what if most of my business is referral based? So on this one, you could just, close the window, leverage your website and IDX to get at least one transaction this year. And that's what I wanted to stress, is that using iHome Finder, or, that you're going to get basically a huge ROI if you stay committed. The tools are built, once you've leveraged them, they're built to kind of gain momentum over time on the SEO front, and basically with good content, if you get one transaction, you way more than paid for the tools. So that's the only pitch part you're going to hear from me. I'm just going to kind of talk about the overall SEO piece, but I truly believe that about tools like iHome Finder. So anyway, go to the next slide.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to add one thing, Luke, on your last point about post-lead marketing strategy to help turn direct leads into fans. It's something that we're really focused on in our product. Every account has a feature called the Property Organizer. So if you get a new lead, you can set them up with a Property Organizer account that sends them automated listing alerts for active and sold listings. And then you can go even further with market boosts that adds market reports, upcoming open homes, active and sold listings. And then we have our marketing automation that's built into our CRM, and that has automated campaigns and automated follow-up campaigns. So when new leads come in, even from third-party services, they can fall into specific campaigns that are sending them relevant market-related content based on where they came from, what their search experience or search history was. So it's all about that post-lead marketing strategy that once they come in. So SEO is kind of like getting them through the front door, and then you have a follow-up strategy.
Yeah, that absolutely covers all the bases. I mean the value in those listing alerts, the value in the open houses when people sign up, and if they're on an open houses page and they sign up there, and then they get open house details, and then of course the marketing stuff that you can send out. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it's all automated, so it just almost like gives you a staff to handle all this work for new leads.
Yeah, so one of the resources, there's a lot of resources for beginners, in terms of guides. This is probably the best. So if you go to this link, this Moz link, and sign up there, it's one of the best PDFs you can get. So highly recommend that. Moz has some great tools as well. Ahrefs has some great tools for competitive intelligence, and so yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to quickly touch on some features because we commonly get questions about what type of features are in IM Finder accounts related to SEO strategy and executing SEO strategy. So as you pointed out earlier, just having an account is not an SEO strategy. It fits into a strategy that you come up with. But all of the listings content is optimized for search engine crawling and indexing. Listings are indexed on your domain directly on WordPress, and on non-WordPress, it's indexed on your domain with a subdomain. That's an option, by the way. So if you're on a non-WordPress website using our IDX plugin, contact our support team if you'd like to pursue that. They can help you get that set up. There's no additional cost. And we also have widgets for like sidebars and footers, and those add links to listing galleries that are based on saved searches you create, which we call markets.
And if I could just interject on the non-WordPress on your domain with the subdomain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that piece. So previous to a few years ago, having the subdomain. If you have the domain, if you use your own custom subdomain with that, that's going to be helpful and be kind of perceived as indexable as well. So
yeah. And yes, the widgets I was mentioning allow search engines, when they come to your site and crawl your site to index, it will see these links to listing galleries that you create for any locations you want using markets, which are saved searches. And then the other features in WordPress, you can customize the title and meta tags of the IDX pages that we provide. And in all accounts, we have market listing galleries, which are saved searches, and those can be added to your own pages. So that allows you to build a page, take advantage of all the on-page optimization tools you have by having a custom page, and then embed IDX content onto that page, which is all indexed. And then finally, Yoast SEO plugin is included, which is a really helpful SEO tool. If you have one of our hosted WordPress websites, which we call OmniPress, it includes that plugin. All right, we ready to move on to questions, Luke?
Let's do it.
All right. How can my IM Finder account help my rankings?
Yeah, so just having the listing data available, and then having that level of engagement where people are coming and they're searching, and they're not just coming for content, but they're actually coming to search, and they're coming back, clicking from emails into the site. All of that sends signals to Google that, oh, these people are coming back, they're revisiting the site. And so, iHome Finder makes it so that site becomes stickier, and then the more content and the more value you give to people, the more likely that's going to happen, and then your rankings are also going to get better. And especially if you have a keyword strategy where you're sticking to at least initially like 5 good key phrases, and then you're targeting that content, you're creating content for those people. So
Great. What features should I take advantage of in my iHome Finder account to help my SEO?
Yeah, so definitely the saved searches. That's a huge one. Getting those saved searches set up, and then having custom content start with areas or places or types of properties that you specialize in. If you don't specialize in anything right now, think hard about what you want to specialize in, because that's going to make you more successful as a realtor, to find that specialization and then get that niche, because that's how things happen over time. And the website just becomes a reflection, and the SEO just becomes a reflection of your overall strategy, your niche strategy. So.
Okay, great.
I should add also that everything in iHome Finder is indexable. The pages are indexable. The meta tags are important. Those show up. Oftentimes that's what shows up. You can play with those meta tags, and then that'll show up with, for a custom search, it'll allow you to get a higher click-through rate, and then Google will say, oh, this one has a higher click-through rate now, so let's increase the ranking. Little things like that are available through Yoast and through iHome Finder. So
great.
And then does my domain get SEO credit when search engines crawl? Most definitely, that's the case. Like, every page has its own sort of credit stall, so Google looks at each page as kind of having its own. What you want to do is you want to do a lot of linking where you're not too far deep into your site with links. You have good links on the site, and I'll talk about this a little bit later with the homepage question, but you want to have links from the site that don't go too deep, and then have the proper keyword anchor. So use the anchor, whatever keyword you're using, Houston Farms or something like that, or Houston Ranch or whatever you want to put. Have it be very, very specific, and then also have a lot of deep links. So you have a lot of links back to your homepage, and the more that you can get pages links to the homepage and then give that homepage credit, that's what sort of builds your overall profile. So each page will have its own credit, but then the homepage tends to have the most. So if that makes any sense to most people, that's kind of how the SEO, how the linking works. So.
Okay, excellent. What social media avenues are best for organic SEO?
Yeah, so this is a good one. This is, there's when it comes to social media, you're gonna have like Facebook, you're gonna have LinkedIn, you're gonna have Instagram and Facebook working together. And what I recommend is that if you get a neighborhood page, or you have a market report, a saved search, and you've set that up, and you want to share information about that area, put that into Instagram with a nice picture that's a custom, that's like your own picture. If you can get your own picture instead of a stock picture, that's much better. Google likes that, and the search engines. And I say Google because Google makes up the bulk of all search traffic. But there's other search engines, like Bing and so on. But if you use your own imagery, that is treated as more valuable by the search engines than stock photos. So try to stick to that. And then when it comes to social media avenues, when you put it on the social media, you've got your photo, you've got your link to your site, and then you always have your backlink to your homepage somewhere in the social media profile. So I would say that, starting with LinkedIn and Facebook, but then beyond that, the more links, and excuse me, also Google My Business is another great one, and you can post content there, and of course Google likes it because it's their own channel. So those three: LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google My Business. And then people use Pinterest, they put, Twitter, whatever, like just having a profile in social media and then having a backlink to your site is not going to hurt you. So I would call those, beyond those three I mentioned, do the, you could set up as many profiles as you want and it's not going to hurt you. So.
Okay, great. Is having two websites effective for SEO?
So this one's interesting. I think that this trend of having, where I think it's less of a trend now, but of having multiple websites and then you can do it. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of, and it takes you away from the focus. The overall focus should be on the content, not on how many domains you have, how many websites. And some people will disagree with me in the SEO world on that, but I truly believe like it's all about just that content and the uniqueness of that content and what you put on the page. It's not the domain itself or that you have all these different domains. Now, that may not be true if you have, let's say you have two different niches and you want to be very specific about the sort of content that you have. Maybe it does make sense to have two different accounts. You have two accounts. You have one that is focused on searches in one area, one in another. Another is related to another case where this might make sense is if you have, and I'll get into this question later, if you have a referral-based business where you're referring to agents that maybe they're not technical in their area, but they would take a lead and then they would be able to run with it and do a great job at closing on the home. If you know that area and then you want to set up an account that's separate, that's designed for that area, and you don't want to confuse people that come to your core area, yeah, that could make sense too. That would be a good strategy for having two websites. But in general, for most people, probably not.
Got it. Okay, how important is it to have text on the homepage?
Yeah, so yeah, you definitely want text. What you don't want to do, you don't want to have too much text. You want readability to be your number one thing, because Google's algorithm has gotten so good at reading pages as a human would. And so read it, use some of the tools that are available. Google has a tool called Lighthouse. And, again, I can provide a link to that tool. It's in Chrome. It's in the developer toolkit. And, and there's some information there that could be helpful, in terms of your SEO. There's also a lot of different tools you can use that actually look at the on-page value of the text. And Yoast does that. So that's another tool you can use. I would say that it's important to have it. It's important to have an H1 tag. You've got to have at least, you want at least one. Is it important that you have a ton of text? I wouldn't put a lot of text. I would make it more about getting people to the right place. So your homepage is like the portal to, okay, I want you to do this, or I want you to do that. Like, think about it from a strategic standpoint rather than a sort of like, how much text do I have and what do I need to do to make the search engine happy? The search engine will be happy if you build a good site that people love.
Excellent. What is your number one recommended form of communication, and what would you be saying or sharing?
Yeah. So from an SEO standpoint, I think, and this kind of gets outside of SEO a little bit, but it's okay. It's a good question. I think that realtors have discovered this. They know this. You know this. You know that going into social media and engaging with people and being part of their daily lives in some ways, especially with all that's going on with COVID, like it's something where you're connecting with people, using social media to the best of your abilities, and then also using your website and your links and your content and putting that content into social media somehow. That's going to be key. And by social media, I mean things like where you're adding a market page or a custom search link into LinkedIn and saying, here's what happened in this market. Here's what's going on. I'm the expert. This is interesting. I discovered this price range is has no listings. Are you ready to list? I mean, this is the perfect time. So, you know, a lot of times it comes down to just having an overall strategy of like, okay, what am I trying to achieve? You know, I want to make sure that people come off the fence and they go, oh, well, I've been thinking about selling. I just don't know that much about the market. And oh, wow, there's no listings. So now is great, you know, and that sort of thing. But then backing it up with good content. And then so I would say using, you know, using your people skills with social media, in addition to analytic skills, or hone those analytic skills and get into that piece of it. So, and of course, emails are super useful. But yeah, as far as number one, I'd say social media, just using social media to kind of, and then using your website and your SEO as sort of a secondary piece to that, where you're putting your content into the social media, and then over time your SEO gets better and better. So that's how it ties into SEO.
Yeah, those are great recommendations. Thanks for that. What specific social media tactic do you think carries the biggest benefit to share with clients?
Yeah, and again, back to the safe searches. I think that piece, well, the safe searches on specifically on the buy side, on, you know, when you're trying to attract buyers. On the sell side, if you have a listing or multiple listings, you're going to want to do things like, and again, you can do this with the safe searches as well. But what I would do is I would again, back to the custom images, make sure you use your own images. Of course, with a listing, they're all your images, so they're never going to be stock, which is good. But you put in the post and then put in a bunch of images, and you know, put some emojis in there. You know, I'm talking specifically about Facebook. Put some emojis in there, and then you know, and then make it visual, and then post it, and put a link back to your site in the post to what people would expect to see, and then once that's going, then boost it. And I hear a lot of people talking about, you know, I've heard people talking or complaining about, well, now Facebook doesn't let you target, and you know, because it's housing and all that. I mean, I've seen tremendous value from boosts, where what people may not understand is that having a boost, when you boost and then you go from 5 likes to, you know, 25 likes, that's you're getting validation, you're getting social validation from that boost. So you may not be getting direct traffic, but you're getting that social validation, and then, well, and you are getting direct traffic too, because those people will then click back to your site, and then if you have a good strategy in place, they're going to hopefully like sign up, or, you know, come back again later, that sort of thing. So I would say the best, you know, one of the best social media tactics is just to provide that good content, and then specifically go in and boost in Facebook. You know, it doesn't take much. It's not a huge budget thing. It's like, if you have a listing, you could probably boost for 10 or 15, $20, and then target, when you're boosting, target certain behaviors, or you know, like people that, you know, move into the area. They might be like, for instance, like, you know, I'm from Oregon and Eugene area, and there's a lot of people that are into you know, sort of keeping things green and recycling and things like that. Like, you can think about that, and then think about your audience, and so I think that boost is a big deal. So I would stick to that. Sorry for rambling a little bit on that one. I just wanted to cover all of them.
Yeah, those are all great points. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Should agents have their own standalone website? And if yes, do you recommend any one system?
Yeah, so you know, of course, I recommend iHome Finder for this. You have a standalone portable website that's affordable, that you can take with you anywhere you go if you go to a different brokerage. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really think about when they're considering or thinking about the IDX piece, is that you're like, if you just go with the free you know, the armless or whatever it is, you're never really able to take it to the next level. And then if you just go with your brokerage solution, you give it up. You just give it up. You have to start over. And I think if you make a commitment early on and you say to yourself, okay, in a year, if I get one transaction out of this, the whole thing will be paid for. And then you think of it as, okay, I've got this referral business, but then I've got this internet business that's sort of like, okay, maybe the first year it's 5%, and then the next year it's 10, maybe it's next year it's 15, you know, where it's sort of paying for itself, but then it also achieves this standalone status where if you decide that your brokerage is charging you too much of a commission, a higher percentage that's just too high, and you want to leave, you don't have this standing in your way of that, in the way of that. You know, a site will follow you around. So that's definitely why I think having the standalone makes a lot of sense. So
Excellent.
yeah.
How can I get more exposure for my featured listings to show up in search engines?
Yeah, so this is a good one. I'm glad this question came up. So I think one thing that people don't really realize with the featured listings or your own listing is that it doesn't, the featured listing in many markets right now, a listing will be active for how long? You know, I mean, 3 weeks to, or even a few days to maybe a couple of months. I mean, for some of the higher price listings that are going to sit for a longer period of time, have a longer days on market, you know, it would make sense to get more exposure. In that case, you just do the stuff that I've talked about. You share on social media, you do advertising for a listing like that. You would definitely do more marketing at higher price listings. But for the majority of listings, I don't think that, I think that the featured listing stuff is more about how does it look on your site? Did you augment what's in Zillow? Did you go into Zillow and did you replace whatever, you know, your brokerage might have a feed that goes into Zillow that goes back to their website page for the listing? Well, you could go in and replace it with your featured listing page from your website, your portable, you know, website. So I would do those things. I would say, you know, you've got the, what do I like about this home thing on Zillow? You could add, you can add it, you know, videos, that sort of thing. The other thing I want to touch on, just, you know, and I won't get too deep into this, but I think that it's easy also to get too caught up in being anti-Zillow or being, when it comes to a listing, when you have a listing and you're trying to market it, you actually want to leverage what Zillow has as much as possible. And then of course, direct people back to your site, but don't see it as competitive. And then really, I see a lot of value in literally targeting people to go to the Zillow page, and then back to your featured listing page, but to see the Zillow page as that doorway. Because what happens is people go to Zillow and they go look at houses and they see, oh, this one had 40 saves. This one had 80 saves. Like, that's a hot listing. So I think it's important to think of it from not from a I need to like keep everything within my website perspective when it comes to feature listings, but look at it more as like, okay, I'm trying to get this as much exposure as possible. How do I do that? And so you know, that would be my advice on that.
Yeah, that's great. And I would also add, just so clients know, they have the option to modify their own featured listings in their account. So this would override whatever's in the MLS details with your own, and you can add photos and things like that that customize the listing as it appears on your site using your iHome Finder account.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. In fact, thinking about this even further from an SEO standpoint, one thing you could do is put in the what I like about this home, put something along the lines of, you know, to see some of the additional details about this home, you know, click on the link to the site, something along those lines, and then have it. You could put it just all that extra content. You could put it on your own IDX, on your own iHome Finder page for that featured listing, and that would be even smarter to do than just putting it on the Zillow side. But you could do both, but that would be a good way to get that traffic back to your site as well. So you could send them to Zillow and then have them, when they want to read more, then they come back, and it's all part of an overall marketing strategy and some trial and error.
Right. Yeah, we do know we have a lot of clients who advertise on Zillow, and we have a feature that if they're advertising on Zillow and they get a lead there, that automatically comes into their iHome Finder account, and that person will flow into one of their follow-up campaigns, their automated follow-up campaigns that is set up to target specifically what they were interested in while they're on Zillow.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's a perfect augmentation to Zillow, because Zillow really doesn't have much of there's not a CRM that you want to rely on there. It's just
right.
They're gonna
right.
And it's easy to forget that those leads are even there.
Yeah.
And you want to definitely connect with those people, and then when they come back to the site, that's going to help your SEO.
Right. They're going to get immediate follow-up that backlinks to your site right away. And you're off to the races with your follow-up and engaging that lead, so they don't go to another agent.
Yeah.
Okay. Are the listings indexed by search engines? Are they SEO friendly?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. iHome Finder has the, like I said, the meta tags, the URLs, all of the sort of check the box things that you need to do, or that you need to be SEO friendly. And then to become good at SEO, you need to add your own content. You want to put your own flair on that, and so that comes in the area of, that's with the saved searches, that's with any sort of community page that you build, that sort of thing. So
great. What specific things or keywords should we be adding to our site?
Yeah, so I would definitely say you're going to want to add some of the some of the widgets, for pages where you're doing you get a market report on a specific area, and especially if you're focusing on multiple areas, have widgets where they can search that area. Put a widget like that on the page. Have good links to predefined or saved searches that are set up by typical price ranges. So you might have an area where you might have 3 different price ranges: 350 to 400, 400 to 450, where people can just click and get through and then see the houses in their range. And maybe they're within that range. Maybe they're somewhere in the middle of that range, and they could just click on both of those pages. But what that does is it gets you more clicks. It gets you deeper. It gets them deeper into the site, and then they'll look and they'll stay on the page and look at the houses, and then click around, and makes your site sticky. And then of course that's a signal to Google that the site is valuable to people. So, and that's what you want. So I would say, the neighborhood keywords, whatever the 5 keywords that you come up with initially, where I talked about just having an initial plan of just keeping it simple. What are your 5 key phrases, and make sure those are on the home page, and make sure you build content for those. And then beyond that, you could get into just, maybe you have outlying communities, and you want certain price ranges for those communities. You can build those pages as well, and then have those as links as well. And then anytime someone goes to that page and then they click on it and then they come back to the home page, that's good for you. That's good for SEO. So
excellent. All right, next question. What is the #1 thing an agent should do to increase their website's SEO?
Yeah, so I honestly think the number one thing that people do with SEO is overthink it. And that if you just start with a high level strategy and you commit to it, and then you follow through and you put it on the calendar. And if you have questions, you ask questions, but then you get past that hurdle, and then you set up that plan, maybe a couple hours a week, you work on it. I think that's the number one thing you can do is to simplify it, don't overthink it, and it starts with the keywords. So having the 5 keywords, and then building things up, and all the information is there for how to do that, like the ability and yeah. So I would say number one thing is don't overthink.
Yeah, that's great. And I think your point about the keywords is excellent. And for instance, if people went to that free resource, SEO Moz, that's going to have a great guide for helping you, if you're new to this, to explore what keywords are good candidates and figure out what your strategy is for which keywords you're going to target.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's also for keyword research, Google AdWords has the Google keyword tool is excellent, and can give you some ideas. You don't want to be too well, actually, this is a great segue into this question. You don't want to get too into, do I just want to be number one for Austin real estate? You're not gonna. It's gonna take a long time. You're not gonna get there. So start with, and you may eventually, but you're gonna want to start with, targeting certain areas or targeting certain neighborhoods, and then that's kind of how you get in the door. So I would say the biggest mistake is really focusing, well, first of all, overthinking SEO and never getting started. And that goes hand in hand with like doing the do-it-yourself thing, and then just never really admitting to yourself that I either simplify this and I do a couple hours a week, or an hour a week, or I just outsource it. And so that's probably the biggest mistake is maybe not outsourcing, and then not doing the do-it-yourself and then committing to it. So that's that choice. That's the biggest mistake, I would say, in terms of websites. I mean, you're a realtor, and like, I've been in the shoes. It's you're constantly being pulled into different directions all the time. It's really hard to find that time. I mean, a lot of times you just want that downtime when you're not getting distracted by people contacting you or having to deal with things, and that's where it makes it really hard to actually have that dedicated time that it takes to sit down and do the website stuff and the technical stuff, especially if it's not really your forte. And so I would just say, consider definitely looking at, either outsourcing or just simplifying in your own mind. Like, okay, I'm going to do an hour a week, 2 hours a week. I'm not going to expect too much, and then over time it's going to build up and get better. So.
Yeah, that's certainly a step forward if they're not going to go to an outside service. That weekly, hour commitment is certainly, you can make some progress with that and get things moving.
Yeah, 4 hours a month. Yeah, you can do a lot actually.
Yeah. Okay, we probably have time for a couple more questions, and then we'll have to wrap up. Is there a minimum number of recommended saved search links one should aim to have on their website?
Yeah, well, I think that at a minimum, you want to have at least 5 to start, because like I said, there's those keywords. So you have the keywords, you figure out which keywords, which neighborhoods, and you can look that up in the AdWords keyword tool, which neighborhoods are getting the most traffic, and you start with that, and then you go, okay, I'm going to build 5, and so I would say the minimum is 5. Minimum would be 5 on that. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. How can an agent find best keywords to help improve their website ranking? Kind of, we were just talking about that.
Yeah. So there's there's the Google AdWords tool, the keyword planner. There's the, I think SEMrush has a fantastic like gap analysis tool, and you could sign up for a trial, and then if you don't want to pay it's kind of expensive. It's $99 a month, at least at the realtor level. It would be like at the kind of the baseline level, 99 a month. But you could sign up for the trial, get a bunch of get some keyword information, and if you want to stick with it, you could. But that tool, SEMrush, it's called a keyword gap analysis tool, and it gives a tremendous amount of information about who's advertising on keywords, what's the competitive value of it. You just get a lot of information with that. So I like that tool a lot. Yeah.
Okay, great. How can I dominate my market against well-established business in ranking for SEO?
Well, I think that in my perspective, the best way to start to dominate, well, first of all, is consistency, and either outsourcing or committing to the hour, 2 hours a week, and a strategy that's simple and straightforward, and let that play out over 3 to 6 months. Watch if you have a goal of, okay, I want to be number one for this neighborhood or this area, and you'll be surprised that if you focus your efforts on one area or one niche, you'd be surprised at how quickly that can work out for you. I mean, it may not happen in the first month or 2 months, or it might even take 3, 4, or 5 months. But that sustained effort at creating and marketing that neighborhood and that page, your rankings will come up, and you'll see results. If you're trying to rank for a generic keyword, like I said, like Austin real estate or something like that, that's going to take a lot more time. And in that case, you're going to have to, I think, to do that, you would definitely outsource to do that. You would need to spend some money, and you'd want to probably do some marketing as well, and kind of have the marketing centered around that phrase and so on. But that's a whole different strategy. Most realtors are not gonna. You're gonna want to focus more on like getting your niche dialed in, and then commit to the niche, and then yeah. So and then know what your competitor is doing too. Like SEMrush gives you information about competitors. It tells you where how they're doing. Ahrefs does that too. That's another tool, and tells you where their keywords are, where they're strong with keywords, and you can go in and kind of, you can do a flank, where you're doing a flanking effort, where in some ways they may not even be aware that they're ranking for those keywords, and then you come around and because they just see it as general traffic, or they're not paying attention, and then you see those keywords and you go, okay, well, I can create content for that, and then you build it, and then pretty soon you're showing up, and you're getting a higher ranking. So and by pretty soon, I mean it could take a month, 2 months, 3 months. It can take time. I think anyone who tells you in SEO, like, I can get you to number one, like, it takes time, it takes consistency. So yeah, don't buy that.
Great, that's fantastic advice. I think we're going to have to wrap it up here. We're a little over already.
Okay.
So this has been really great. We really appreciate your being with us today, Luke, and answering these questions. I'm sure everybody's going to get a lot out of this information, and either to continue improving their existing SEO strategy, or formulating a new one that they can start executing against, whether it's on their own or contracting somebody. But this is really helpful information, and as we expected, we weren't able to get through all the questions, so we will be Luke will be following up with you individually over the coming days, and we, as I said earlier, we'll probably have another webinar to continue talking about SEO, and maybe get into some of the product features that we mentioned, and actually applying those, because we sort of went through them quickly, but we will call those features out in the article that you're going to get a link to tomorrow in your email. So watch your email tomorrow afternoon. That article will have the webinar recording and all the questions, and where Luke answered the questions within the video, and we'll have those features that are mentioned, the iHome Finder features, with links on resources for using those features. So hopefully that'll help you all out as well. And I think that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Luke?
No, I just wanted to say, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Hank, very much. Thank you to all the attendees those that are still on. I appreciate that. Sorry I didn't get through all the questions, but if you have any questions afterwards, definitely, I'll be following up with you. So take care. Be safe
Yeah,
out there.
thank you, Luke. Yeah, and I wanted to point out our website, ironfinder.com. If you go to the resources in the menu and select blog, we have lots of great helpful articles there on all range of topics. And we also have our contact information here. I want to make sure everybody has, if they want to get a demo or if they have an account and they have some questions about executing some of these things, please do contact our support team. If you don't have an account and you're looking around, want to get a demo, definitely contact us at sales@ironfinder.com. You can call at 866-700-8855. Or if you just go to our website during business hours, you can chat or fill out a form and somebody will follow up with you immediately. We have free trial signups there as well. And thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next webinar. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Hank.
Thank you, Luke.